Is Reinders the best budget midfielder in the game, and should we hold off selling João Pedro for just one more week? Well, in today's video I'm discussing the top transfers across FPL and giving you my transfer tips to whether I think they should be transferred in or out of your FPL teams. So, let's get into this. Welcome to the first transfer tips video of the season. We'll be covering all the top transfers in FPL and giving you my thoughts on whether they should be in or out of your FPL teams. Now, we also have a secret player within this video who is a sell that nobody's really talking about. In fact, many people are bringing him in this game week, and one of the top algorithms in the game in Night Managers has actually said he's a potential sell. So definitely one to look out for in this video. If you are new around here and you've never watched my content before, go ahead and subscribe. I make FPL videos to help you guys at home, and by just clicking that red button helps me out a massive amount. The like goal for today's video is 20 likes. First player of the video is Reinders. Now, yeah, he's already went up in price, I know, but I still think he's one of the cheapest and best midfielders in the game currently. Am I overreacting from game week 1? Maybe just a tiny bit because of how well he played, but I still think if he continues to play this role for Manchester City, we could have an absolute steal on our hands here for about 5.6 million or 5.5 if you started the season with him. Absolutely unbelievable. I would just be cautious about a few things. When Rodri gets back in the team, could that change his role? Could it actually be that he plays a deeper role if Rodri remains out still until the end of September? Maybe he plays that deeper role that Rodri was responsible for in that Manchester City team. We don't really know too much right now, but all I know is I think he'll continue within this more attacking role for Manchester City, and that's really exciting for owners. 27.9% owned. I mean, he's getting close to 1 million transfers in for game week 1, which is very impressive. Overall, I think Reinders is an absolute steal. I like him a lot in FPL. The fixtures are a bit iffy coming up, so just watch out for that. But game week 6, game week 7 is a time where I'm going to look to have more and more Manchester City assets within my time, like Erling Haaland, Reinders, Nori potentially, and somebody else we could consider as well in Turkey. We'll see how his minutes do in the next few weeks. But overall, Reinders, fantastic asset in my opinion. This was one of the more surprising ones for this video. Wirtz having almost 400,000 transfers out. It doesn't quite make sense to me, but yeah, I don't know. The next two fixtures for Liverpool, I understand, aren't too great, but it's not the case that we just sell, assets just because they've got 1 or 2 bad fixtures. We normally hold them for a longer period of time, and when you consider that game week 4 and game week 5 are really nice fixtures, but even 6 is pretty decent as well for Florian Wirtz and Liverpool. I don't know, I just can't really see the reason why people should be selling Florian Wirtz so early. It wasn't like he was hooked early within the fixture for against Bournemouth. He didn't do too bad in the fixture either. A really surprising stat for me that close to 400,000 people are selling him. I think the main reason is taking probably money out of the midfield and then upgrading other positions elsewhere. Perhaps Wirtz to Reinders was a popular move for game week 1. I'm not too sure. But yeah, really surprising. I think he's definitely a hold. I don't think we've had enough information on Florian Wirtz for him to be a sell in FPL. But yeah, feel free to tell me in the comments if you've sold Florian Wirtz from game week 1. Let me know why. After the absolute explosion of news we had last night around Alexander Isak, Hugo Ekitike looks pretty good in FPL. If you aren't aware why Ekitike was not particularly a player who I was too fond of in FPL, was because of the next 2 fixtures of Newcastle and Arsenal. Not too great. And then in that game week 3 to game week 4 space, you have a 2-week international break. And I did believe at that point that Alexander Isak would be at the club and perhaps even ready to cameo against Burnley. But now that looks a lot less likely to happen. It seems that he's going to be forced to stay at Newcastle and not get a transfer to Liverpool. Of course, things change all the time. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for the latest FPL news, because this could change very quickly. I think if Newcastle get access to a striker, we will have to wait and see. But Hugo Ekitike now in FPL seems like a really solid buy. I think you don't have to necessarily buy him for Newcastle and Arsenal, but keeping him on your watch list, at least for the next 2 weeks, I think it's a really good idea. Konsa for me is not a sell in FPL. I understand if people are looking to bench boost game week 2 and just don't want Konsa in their team because he's not going to play against Brentford away from home. But I do think with Aston Villa's fixtures in mind, him probably going to be playing a lot of minutes for Aston Villa, I don't think he's a sell. We can look at game week 3 onwards for him as an asset. I think it's completely fine to just bench him and play somebody else. There's not really, there's not a rush to get rid of him, in my opinion. You've got Palace, Everton, Sunderland, Fulham, and Burnley in the next fixtures after his 1-game suspension. I don't know. I just don't think he's a sell right now. I think people are maybe looking at that red flag and getting a bit panicky because they're perhaps new to the game. But yeah, he just doesn't need to be sold. Unless someone's really catching your eye that you're desperate to move to away from Konsa, I can understand that and maybe look to get Konsa back around game week 4, game week 5 if you're looking for those good Aston Villa fixtures. But for me, he's a hold. I think our benches should be strong enough from game week 1 to have a few assets that can come on and do a job for us for at least 2 or 1 game week. So yeah, for me, Konsa, I don't think we should be selling him right now. Let me know if you have sold him in the comments and let me know why. Chris Wood was someone I wasn't deeply considering for game week 1. I was more on the Evan Nielsen, Mateta, Strand Larson boat than Chris Wood, and maybe he's proved us all wrong with his 2 goals in the first game week. I will say it was against Brentford, and I think Brentford, looking at how they performed against Forest, could be in a bit of trouble this season and maybe a massive team to target. So I think this Palace fixture will tell us a lot about Nottingham Forest and how they're going to play, as well as Chris Wood. I still think he's an absolute poacher of a man, very strong, aerial threat, he's got it all. I think he's a great FPL asset. Of course, 7.6 million now in FPL, so it's not as easy to go from a 7.5 to Chris Wood. We're mainly looking to downgrade now, unless you're looking to take 2 transfers and a hit into game week 2, which I really wouldn't advise. I think it's way too early to be making these types of moves, but I do respect Chris Wood a little bit more now as an FPL asset. I'll be waiting till maybe around game week 5 or even as early as game week 3. We'll have to wait and see. But overall, Chris Wood has caught my attention. Over 420,000 transfers, in Chris Wood this game week for game week 2. Now, I apologise if you've sold some of the players in this video that have been in the top sells in FPL, because I just keep disrespecting that. I keep saying maybe we should have kept a hold of him, but for me, it does make sense to keep a hold of these players for now. Like, it's game week 1. I think we should all be playing in a more safe and calm way, just building up a few transfers and then acting upon that. But if you're really unsure and not happy with players like João Pedro, players like Wirtz, players like Konsa who have been involved in today's video, it's completely fine to sell them. Don't just let me tell you what to do and when to do it. I'm just giving you my opinion. And my opinion on João Pedro is he's probably a hold. I mean, we've seen how West Ham were against Sunderland in game week 2. I was very happy, of course, in that fixture because I support Sunderland, but West Ham just didn't look good whatsoever. They could not control the ball in midfield. The only standout players for me were perhaps Diouf. Wan-Bissaka was okay. It was a very mid performance from him, in all honesty. He normally puts up like solid 7 out of 10s every single game week. He was about a 5 for me in that performance. Bowen was okay. He just really does not have the support in that West Ham team. I mean, there was times he had the ball on that wing and he was kind of looking up like, where the hell are my teammates? Like, West Ham are looking absolute shambles. I think Graham Potter could be the first manager to go in the Premier League if they don't do something about this, because they were really shocking in this fixture. I think João Pedro and Cole Palmer, if they can really pull their things out and get that creativity going that they massively lacked against Palace, they could have a fantastic game week here. And I do think it's a bit of an overreaction from the first game week, selling players like Palmer, selling players like João Pedro because of how bad Chelsea were in that first week. Let's see how they do in game week 2. Let's see how they do in game week 3. Potentially even game week 4. Brentford's a great fixture. And then when we get to the more difficult fixtures like Manchester United, Brighton and Liverpool, we can then look to sell them. I do think that's probably the way I would play it if I owned João Pedro. I don't think I'll be selling them this game week. Now, this is a really surprising one, but the algorithm from Night Managers, the best algorithm in the game, has identified Mohamed Kudus as a potential sell in the next few game weeks. And that blew my mind. I spoke to the founder last night of Night Manager and I said, who is the algorithm picking up for buys and sells FPL? I've chose this player in particular because I thought it was a really interesting point to really learn from in FPL. Kudus has had over 250,000 transfers in from game week 1 because he scored 10 points, 2 assists, a bonus point, of course playing over 60 minutes as well. Fantastic game week for him, but the algorithm has identified that he could be a prime candidate for an early sub in this Spurs team. We've got players like Odegaard, Tell, Rich Arlison, and potentially even Kulusevski coming back after his injury in the next few weeks. So the algorithm has identified Kulusevski as an issue in our squads. Well, could be an issue in our squad, in the next few weeks of FPL. The algorithm has identified a possible problem with our teams before it's even happened, so it's keeping it on the radar as a potential sell in the game. I think that just proves to me yet again why Night Managers and their algorithm are just the best in the game. They've got a proven track record of unbelievable ranks, brilliant ranks for their clients as well. I'm really impressed with this. I thought it was really interesting that they've discovered a problem before it's even happened. Now, they do have a 2 free-week trial going on right now if you use code FPLMOGS with the link in the description. And if you do like their services after them 2 free weeks, code FPLMOGS will get you 20% off your first build month as well. I would go check it out. I think it's so valuable. And from game week 2 onwards, that's when their personalized transfers come into play. So definitely check it out. Link in the description. Use code FPLMOGS. Tomorrow you can expect my team selection video for the game week, so make sure you're tuning in for that. I always outro my videos with a massive thank you for your guys' support on the FPL Mugs YouTube channel. If you did enjoy today's video, drop a like, and if you aren't yet subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe for future FPL content and deadline streams. But that is everything for today's video. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.